The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Nils Hoglander might be ready to shock the hockey world once again. But also in this episode, I'm going to tell you why Kevin Lankinen is now Kyle's favorite Canuck. What?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with a Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe and like this video on YouTube. Oh, baby. And on the podcast, and make sure you follow us and leave a 5-star review, because we ain't here without you and your support, but we're also not here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. We're one step closer to real, live hockey for your Vancouver Canucks. Their first preseason game takes place tomorrow against the Seattle Kraken. Lots of preseason games already underway in the NHL. So until we get to that, what we do have to chew on is the finale of Canucks training camp, a little scrimmage, some comments from the head coach, and we have a better idea of who is standing out now based on their training camp performances and what coach Rick Tocchet is saying. In this episode, we'll also get into a little bit more on Kevin Lankinen. Kyle touched on it over the weekend. I'll give my thoughts on the signing as well and tell you some facts only, things that you should know about the newest Canucks goaltender. Oh, baby, is he a stud? All right. But speaking of studs, let's get into the MVPs of Canucks training camp. And we got to start with the guy who was the real MVP overall, okay? The guy who crushed it in fitness testing, the guy who looked like a ready-made short-term replacement for Dakota Joshua, because, again, we're sending Dakota Joshua one love. That guy is going to be back soon. But one player who was, I'm just going to say it like it is, the most valuable player in the NHL last season, okay? He didn't win the MVP, but based on the contract and what he provides, he was the most valuable player in the NHL last season. And, you know, coming into the season, it was fair to think that Nils Hoglander could take a step back. And again, this is September 23rd. Anything is possible. But what we've heard from Rick Tocchet during training camp and what we've seen from Hoglander, both in the scrimmages and at training camp, is that this guy is locked and loaded and ready to build upon what was a career season in 2023-24. And for Nils Hoglander, I think one reason why, you know, fans in this market, and especially outside of this market, are sleeping on him, you know, it's twofold, right? He didn't have a strong finish to last season, okay? Healthy scratch during the playoffs. Kyle and I have talked about it. Everydayers know there were some pretty bad coaching blunders in the Edmonton series where Nils Hoglander should have had more opportunities. And I think Tocchet and his staff probably realized that. But the second is Nils Hoglander was on an absolute heater in terms of his shooting percentage last season. The guy scored on over 20% of his shots, scored 24 goals at even strength. And man, oh man, those two things are hard to repeat if you don't shoot the puck more. And I think that is going to be one of the big keys for Nils Hoglander this season. The other big key is how he looks on the defensive side of the puck. And from some of the clips in scrimmage, you know, the guy's he looked positionally sound, okay? I know it's a training camp scrimmage, just got a whole preseason to go. But in terms of early takeaways, the polish in Nils Hoglander's game looks really, really strong. This guy looks like he was dedicated. He felt the heat, and he should have felt the heat of all the free agent signings the Canucks made on the wings, especially, right? Like when we went over our depth charts going into the season, I mean, I still had Nils Hoglander penciled in on the top line or the second line, whatever you want to call it, alongside PD and Jake DeBrusk. And I think there's still a pretty strong chance that's where he's going to end up on opening night if Dakota Joshua is healthy. But you look at the competition and nothing's given for this guy, right? Again, look at Podkolzin and Joshua from last training camp. Two guys who were called up by the coaching staff. Two guys who, Dakota Joshua figured out in a hurry about Podkolzin. It impacted his entire season. Training camp and starting things off on the right foot are integral to having a good season for the most part. I saw these comments from Thomas Jans and Harman Dial about Elias Pettersson, who, again, looks like he had another strong training camp here as well. And they made the comment that Elias Pettersson's best NHL seasons have come after he had a really strong training camp. The season where he got 102 points, his rookie season in particular stand out. So having a strong training camp is not the be-all or end-all, but it certainly helps you start off the season on the right foot. And another reason why I think Nils Hoglander might be one of the sleepers in the NHL this season is, again, you look at the Canucks' depth on the wing and you kind of start to wonder, is this guy even going to play in a top six role? And I mean, even when he played top six last season, he didn't have power play time. He was still averaging under 15 minutes a game. He wasn't often used in those late game situations if the Canucks had the lead. He just wasn't trusted defensively. And I think for Nils Hoglander to earn more minutes, he's got to earn that defensive trust of the coaches. And again, very early telling signs, but this guy did win the fitness testing, okay? And it's one of the young bucks. It's not easy to do from a strength standpoint, but from a cardio and endurance standpoint, you want to be one of the best, especially when you're, again, only 23 years old. My God, what most of us would give to be that age again. In his prime, baby. Nils Hoglander winning the fitness testing. And again, early takeaways from training camp and scrimmages is that this guy looks positionally sound on the defensive side of the puck. And that is going to be incredibly important if he's going to force his way up the lineup this season. And I think one of the last reasons why Nils Hoglander might be one of the sleepers in the NHL this season is that if he starts off on the right foot like he has and carries that into preseason and regular season action, this guy could be in a top six role for the entirety of this season. And oh yeah, he's going to do it when he's barely making over $1 million. Again, one of the most valuable players in the NHL this season could be Nils Hoglander. So what does that career season look like for Nils Hoglander? Like, again, talked about it on the defensive side of the puck. He's got to earn the trust of the coaching staff in order to increase his minutes. And he's already got that dog and a bone mentality offensively. He's just got to parlay that into strong defensive play as well. He's got the ability to be a pest, but on the defensive side of the puck, it's more about positioning and making sure you're in the right spots at the right time. Hitting those right spots. Oh, baby. Nils Hoglander's got to do that defensively to play a bigger role in this team. Offensively, though, if this guy can carve out a top six role for the majority of this season, again, remember, for most of last season, I think most of you know, he was on the fourth line. And there's an argument, oh yeah, he could crush it in his fourth line minutes. Maybe he can even crush in his top six minutes as well. And if he does that, I mean, this guy scored 24 goals with a mix of fourth line and second line minutes last year. If he had second line minutes the whole year, could this guy hit 30 goals? I think that's certainly a possibility. Could he get to 50 points? That would be a pretty big build off of the 36 points he got last season. So I think that's the potential for Nils Hoglander here. Can he hit 30 goals, 50 points if he plays in the top six role the entire season? I definitely think it's possible. And again, he's got strong competition. So if he falters or if he doesn't have to trust the coaching staff, there's other guys who have strong training camps like Kiefer Sherwood, Daniel Sprong, who are going to be breathing down his neck for more opportunities in the top six. So Nils Hoglander, low-key had a lot of pressure coming into training camp, and the guy crushed it early on. And maybe he's in line to crush it for your Vancouver Canucks throughout the upcoming season. Let's go, Nils. What a stud. All right. On the other side, let's talk about some of the other MVPs from Canucks training camp and some players to watch as we get into preseason action, specifically from the MVP front. But maybe touch on a couple other guys as well. Again, the first preseason game tomorrow night. So we got more to cover on that side of things on tomorrow's episode. I also hope to be joined by the one and only Kyle Bhawan, stuck in traffic right now, But man, oh man, I don't know if you can hear it, but I got a little bit of a man cold going on, being a bit of a baby. And it'd be nice if Kyle could join to, spare me a few breaths here. We'll find out if he's coming back on the other side. But before we do it, we got to shout out our friends over at PrizePicks and Indeed. All right, we got PrizePicks on the program, a new sponsor. Shout out to the new sponsor. Shout out to the people giving us love here on Locked On Canucks and the Locked On NFL Network. So PrizePicks, they are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat predictions and watch the winnings roll in. All right, PrizePicks. You want to play on PrizePicks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays in the promos tab on the app to view entries of some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community. All right, and for, if you're betting on NFL, they're big on the NFL here. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss on this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends, all right? And on PrizePicks, make sure you go download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game, baby. All right, from the new sponsor to an old trusty steed, we got our friends over at Indeed, okay? It's pissing rain out here. It's a gray day on the West Coast. So if you're unemployed or if you're looking for workers, you got to crack open Indeed this morning, baby, because Indeed is the matching and searching engine and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. So ditch that busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed just doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Indeed, they do it all except wash your car. Okay, but they do it all. Hey, if you're looking to wash cars, you can find that job on Indeed as well. They leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences daily, and their matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of the show, you'll get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Oh, baby. All right. I'm back here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. Whether I'm sick, whether Kyle's stuck in traffic. That's why you need your buddies in life sometimes, Kyle's got my back more often than not on this show, and sometimes I got to have his back as well. All right? And we got the back of Nils Hoglander. Kyle's not here, but, Kyle and I were chatting on the phone this morning, and man, oh man, I think both of us believe that Nils Hoglander could be primed for a career season. And we're seeing that in the comments as well. Dan Jardine. Shout out to the everydayers. Dan Jardine, one of the GOATs among our commenters. Big Hog. I like that. Wish my wife called my thing below the pants the Big Hog rather than the pencil. Anyways, Big Hog is a stealth pick for 30 and 30 this season. Oh, man. Dan Jardine, man. He's going even above my projection of the 30 and 20 for Nils Hoglander, man. Okay. Dan Jardine, man. That's the stuff right there. Andrew's saying that I need to get some cold FX. All I need is the hype on Nils Hoglander, baby. Inject that into my veins, and I'm going to be just fine. Let's go. All right, so Nils Hoglander wasn't the only guy turning heads at Canucks training camp. Let's talk about some of the other guys who got some shout-outs from the coaching staff. Maybe some things that I saw during this training camp scrimmage, which was at least streamed online because I wasn't in Penticton for training camp. I had to rely on the clips and chatting with some of the guys who were there for some uptick. That entire, I'm going to shout out because we're talking about Hoglander, that entire line of Hoglander, Atu Ratu, and Connor Garland. All the talk in preseason about, Connor Garland and Atu, that third line, doing it again with Teddy Blueger, Dakota Joshua. Well, maybe the Canucks found a new third line with Hoglander, Atu Ratu, and Connor Garland. Kyle, are you mic'd up? What do you think of that? Is there a potential there for those three to start the season with the Vancouver Canucks, or is that a bit of a pipe dream? Because again, we're only in September 23rd with 0 preseason games played here.
Can you hear me now? There you go.
There we go.
Pipe dream. It's a pipe dream, dude. Did you say Atu Ratu?
Yeah,
bring
Atu
his name
Ratu.
up?
Yeah.
No way, dude. Come on, Teddy Bluger's coming back, man. Teddy Bluger, best third line in hockey. Teddy Bluger also has a cousin who listens to the show. Okay, Bob Bluger. So we got to look out for that guy, for real. But it's good that Rick Tocchet is doing his hockey nerd thing and making sure that all his top young guys are playing with, pretty good players. You look at Pettersson with Hronek and Ratu with Garland, and how do you say that guy's name? The defenseman, the guy with the Russian.
Kirill Kudryavtsev.
There you go. He was skating with Myers at camp as well. It's just one of those things, man. That being said, though, we don't know how long Dakota Josh was going to be out for, right? Take your time, take care, one love. And I want to ask you if you think Garland and Hoglander could be something, because apparently those guys have been friends all training camp. That being said, I feel as if both those guys are similar when it comes to needing the puck to be effective. And do you think those two could work on the same line?
Okay, so I'm going to be upfront here. For most of last season, I wasn't a fan of those two playing together. And Kyle, you and I pretty openly talked about last September, October, if this team could even ice a team with Beauvillier, Garland, and Hoglander all in the top 9. You got three pretty smallish guys who are vying for big minutes on the team. And I've changed my tune on that, right? I mean, last fall, you had Hoglander, who spent most of the year in the AHL. You had Garland, who had his trade request, hadn't really found a spot on this team. But those two now, I think, on the same line can absolutely work. And I think they both play a lot bigger than they are. I mean, Garland looks really small there because, he's my size. He's 5'9", 5'8", 160. He's not a big guy. Hoglander, though, I mean, I heard this guy kind of bandied about on the radio about him being Patrick Hornquist. He's not quite that, but ironically, they're close to the same size. Hoglander about 5'11", 195. Or Patrick Hornquist is 5'11", 195. Hoglander about 5'10", 190. So size-wise, they're very similar players. And you know what? In terms, you made the comment about they both demand the puck. I think Garland is very much a line driver, and Hoglander can be a beneficiary of a guy who's a line driver. And he's been like that when playing with Miller, when playing with Pettersson. So I think those guys can absolutely work together.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how those two will look. And as far as the size goes, I mean, this team is also going to use Kiefer Sherwood a lot, right? This team is, I don't know how tall Daniel Sprong is, but the Canucks, they just don't have the biggest team, especially in their forward group, but they make up for it in the back end. It's just the way it is, man. That's the formula of this team, especially when they're missing Dakota Joshua, man. It's the truth. Now, the whole Hoglander thing and him being slept on in the NHL, I feel as if some people are sleeping on him in this market too, right? They're high on Daniel Sprong and the shot that he has, and look what he's doing in training camp. He's making Dylan Ferguson look like Dylan Ferguson, and look at Kiefer Sherwood, the best thing since what's the quote, sliced bread, right? Are we how come we're so easy to forget that Hoglander scored 24 goals at even strength? And yeah, he played a lot of time with Pettersson too, and maybe those two didn't have the best chemistry. And yeah, Hoglander in the first 12 games of the playoffs, he was a shell of himself, right? And that was surprising because you feel as if that guy has the tools to be a playoff type player. But like you said earlier in the episode, he's only 23 years old. He's still so young. And the sky's the limit. The sky is so much the limit still for Nils Hoglander, in my opinion, that I still think the Canucks are going to have a tough time paying Brock Besser, because they're going to want to pay Nils Hoglander to stick around for a long time, because he's going to earn himself a pretty paycheck at the end of the season, if all goes well. And look, you brought it up. He's going into camp this year. He's in the best shape. He's going to do his thing. His back is kind of against the wall. You got Sprong, Sherwood, Lecker Mackey taking his spot, Jake DeBrus, Danton Heinen. It's a lot to handle for a guy who scored 24 goals, again, at even strength. I wonder if that internal motivation is going to bring out the best in that guy. And we've seen the highlights of this guy in the past. And the past has been a long time ago, right? It's like 5-6 years ago. But there's way more of a ceiling to Nils Hoglander than there is to Danton Heinen or Kiefer Sherwood. Straight up, there is. I would even say Daniel Sprong too, considering that Hoglander has like this other ability to be really pesty. Straight up. Be a bit of a POS. And on top of that, he has the ability to pull off the lacrosse goal, right? Go between his legs. Look at the goal he scored against the Rangers. What if we get all of the above consistently for 80 games and we have this guy playing with Elias Pettersson, who's, by all accounts, going to be back this season? You know what I'm saying? Like, what Hoglander can we get?
Yeah, and again, I think, I talked about off the jump, but I think he probably feels the pressure of what the Canucks did. And that's why, Alvin and Rutherford, this team, man, the dream team up top, not only did they bolster the forward depth, but it forces all the incumbents on the team to bring their A game, because nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in the NHL in general, but especially when you got a deep team of guys breathing down your neck. Now, speaking of the forwards, I want to talk about a couple other of the training camp and scrimmage MVPs. And I'm going to list 3 names here, and I'll let you kind of touch on whoever you want. And Kyle, maybe you can list your training camp scrimmage studs as well. But I'm going to go with, Phil Peronic. You got a lot of praise from Rick Tocchet based on his leadership and all that. Looking like a stud out there defensively. Mentoring the young guys, like talking a lot out there. We didn't know this guy could talk until, about a week ago. So I think you got to give Phil Peronic some credit. Going to mention Archer Shilov's, maybe not the strongest training camp, but some unreal saves in the scrimmages, man. I mean, Kyle, yeah, you're yawning right now, but I know that you weren't yawning when Archer Shilov's was making some 5-alarm saves during the scrimmage yesterday. This guy, again, speaking of feeling the heat, now this team's got Kevin Lankinen in the fold. You think Archer Shilov's is feeling the heat? I would think so, because right now it's just his net to lose. And finally, the third guy I'll bring up is Kiefer Sherwood. You mentioned him earlier, but, Connor Garland talking to the media yesterday, mentioned that Quinn Hughes is still talking about Kiefer Sherwood when Garland asked about who stood out. So the fact that Kiefer Sherwood is Quinn Hughes' favorite Canuck, even though he's played with a lot of these guys for years, that says something, man. And, Sherwood definitely didn't disappoint during training camp and scrimmages here.
Yeah, the whole Kiefer Sherwood thing, I've been pretty hard on him for a little bit here, just because I'm a big Hoglander fan, to be honest. That's all it is. Nothing against Kiefer Sherwood. I saw what he did with Nashville, especially against the Canucks. Good on the forecheck. I'm not going to call this guy Wayne Gretzky, but I will say that he at times during that series reminded me of Canucks legend Tater Tot Mott, aka Tyler Mott, like the tenacity and some offensive flair. I'm not even sure if he showed a lot of offensive flair against the Canucks in that series. I believe he had maybe like one empty netter in game 2, if I'm correct, or I don't even know if he was the one that scored the empty netter. But the fact that he brings so much speed and so much tenacity raises the floor when it comes to the speed in general for the Canucks, and that's what they needed. And bro, to be honest, I could be talking again. I'm not talking ish. I'm just a little skeptical if this guy is going to be way and above that $1 million salary or whatever he signed for. What did he sign for? Like 1.15, 1.5,
yeah,
whatever.
2 years, 1.5 million per year.
Yeah, there you go. Like, so I think some people are like, yo, this guy's worth 2.5. This guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. Why did Nashville let him go? Exactly. Why did Nashville let him go? If they're trying to build this juggernaut, you know what I'm saying? Just wait and see. I wonder what he's going to do with Rick Tocchet, though. It could work. It could. But again, I'm saying all this, but Quinn Hughes, man. Quinn Hughes, again, I'm being serious, bro. This guy's buying him a car. You think I'm joking? Straight up, man. It's like Quinn Hughes' intelligence, Quinn Hughes' cerebralness tells me that he is so good at analyzing players and reading the game. So if this guy's so high on Kiefer Sherwood, then I'm about to, get a Sherwood up the what. Straight up, man. He's about to prove me wrong, and he's gonna be like, yo, I'm a way better player than Nils Hoglander. Yo, and speaking of all this internal competition, Trevor, like before we get to the third part of the show, like can you just like sprinkle in some of your assumption of this philosophy that this team has built? Because Again, they did it with Lankinen and Shelovs, probably out of desperation, but I think a little bit is like, yo, let's light some fire under Shelovs' ass too, for real. Okay, give them some internal motivation. And then you look at like what they did with all their death wingers. Talk about that, like the Alvin, Rutherford, Tocchet philosophy on internal competition being so important.
Well, these guys have all been around hockey for a long time, right? Rutherford for decades, Tocchet for decades, Alvin in the NHL for almost 2 decades now from his time as a scout. So, look, these guys are smart hockey people. They know that, you hear a lot about when they first came to Vancouver, the rumors about this being a country club atmosphere. You hear the same stuff out of Toronto. You know what eliminates the country club atmosphere is internal competition and guys pushing each other, right? And, the Stars are on another level. They need to push themselves to be better. The coaching staff needs to push them. But for your secondary guys, because, again, you need a team to win in hockey. You need that internal competition. And, obviously the Demko situation is unfortunate. They would prefer to have Demko than to have Shelovs there as a starter. But to bring in a guy who's going to push Shelovs, I think it's crucial because, we're obviously high on Shelovs, but he's got 19 games of NHL experience. You need internal competition there. And the Canucks have done a great job of having that internal competition at forwards and in net. On defense, that remains to be seen. But, hey, you can't be perfect. This team has not won a Stanley Cup yet, that is. So, on the other side, let's touch about, speaking of internal competition, let's touch a bit more on Kevin Lankinen, maybe a couple of comments, maybe one of Kyle's other training camp MVPs. But I want to tell you why Kevin Lankinen is now Kyle's newest favorite Canuck, man. Kyle, you just jumped ship so fast, man. Unbelievable. That's coming up on the other side after we shut out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you know the deal, baby. It's NFL season, and you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just your first $5 bet. Okay, NFL season is back, but NHL season also around the corner. And I want to shout out a couple of Canucks who are listed in terms of scoring 20 goals next season and the over or under. I was looking for Nils Hoglander. I don't see him here, so the odds must not be good. FanDuel's not loving him hitting 20 goals, but I do see Jake DeBrusk minus 330 to hit 20 goals. Not a lot of value there. Seems like a given. Connor Garland plus 115 to score 20 goals next season. A bit of value there. And the big one that I see in terms of Canucks, Quinn Hughes plus 500 to score 20 goals next season. My God, okay, if you're believing in Quinn Hughes to score 20 goals, which Quinn Hughes thinks he can do it, for Ben $10, you get $50 back. So that is a screaming deal. Dakota Joshua also plus 900 if you're believing in Dak to hit the 20-goal mark. Some value there among your Vancouver Canucks. So if you want to place any of those bets, make sure you go to FanDuel.com right now.
Boom, bam, man. It's 20 goals for Quinn Hughes. 20 goals for Connor Garland. What? Okay, we back doing this, and that's giving you Locked On Canucks. Kyle Bhawan, Trevor Beggs at the Don't Doze Art Lab. Yes, the place that gives you that West Coast bias. One love to the Locked On Podcast Network as well. But, giving us that culture, okay? Telling Trevor Beggs and Kyle Bhawan that you got to give it to the people every day. You're Canucks every day, and who would have known, right? When we took on this gig in March of 2023, I didn't think it was going to only take a year and a half for me to be so addicted to the Canucks, okay? Maybe the habitual thing of doing this every day got us closer to that, but I'm telling you, it's the hope, it's the belief, and it's this competition. And Trevor, I keep bringing it up because I think that we should take notes. Maybe we need a third co-host here. Maybe we got to spice it up a little bit. That internal competition is good. A lot of quote-unquote competition in the podcast world on the West Coast, the best coast of Canada, covering this team. And Trevor Beggs, man, maybe we need to bring someone in to I don't know, up the things over here on the show that gives you the West Coast bias. What do you think of that? Should we bring what did he call him? What was Bondi's nickname this weekend? Because I call him the Whacker, but what do you call him?
I think I called him Blunt Bondi. I can't even remember.
Bondi, man. Yo, everyone in the comments, not the live chat. After this video ends, please in the comments, just write "Bring back Bondi." What do I mean by that? Bring back Bondi. If you guys don't know the truth and the history of Locked On Canucks, Nick Bondi invented Locked On Canucks. Okay, former host, he built the culture. We're not here without him. Okay, and now we're not going anywhere without Kevin Lankinen as your what for the Vancouver Canucks? Is he your starter or the backup? Would Demp go out? Trevor Beggs, answer this the right way, please.
No, he's definitely the backup. And I think Tocchet's comments alluded to as much when he was talking after training camp or the scrimmage at some point this weekend. He mentioned that he doesn't like the idea of having a 1A, 1B. He likes to have a defined starter and a defined backup. He doesn't really believe in splitting games. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about the goaltending situation. Now, things could change if, let's say, Shelovs is struggling and Lankinen comes in and has a couple good games. But as of right now, I think Canuck fans can expect that Archer Shelovs is the number one guy in this net, and Kevin Lankinen is firmly the backup. That's what you should expect. Now, that being said, Kevin Lankinen, let's talk about a couple things you need to know about Kevin Lankinen. And the number one thing you should know, and Kyle, this is for you, the host of WTF, What the F You Reading? Kyle, Kevin Lankinen needs to be on your that podcast because he started his own book club, baby, back in 2019.
Damn.
So 2019, the best year of Kevin Lankinen's life. He led Finland to a gold medal at the World Hockey Championships. Now, Kyle, I know you don't care. North Americans don't really care about the World Hockey Championships, but they mean a lot in Europe, right? Saw that with the Czech Republic this year when they won gold. Latvia had a national holiday when they won bronze with Artur Shelovs in net. And Finland, when they won back in 2019, had next to no NHLers on that team, and they beat Russia in the semis, and they beat Canada in the gold medal game. And Kevin Lankinen became like an overnight celebrity because he had a .940 save percentage in that tournament. 7 wins in 8 games. And he was asked by a reporter about what his hobbies were. And he mentioned reading, and he mentioned this one book. It'll be in my article on Daily Hive what the name of the book is. I don't have it in front of me.
What?
But that book immediately.
What's the name of the book, dude?
You can find it on dailyhive.com. That book immediately became sold out across Finland. There was waiting lists for people to get this book. So Kevin Lankinen had the influence, man, ended up starting his own book club where proceeds went to a Finnish organization that supported kids who wouldn't have played sports otherwise. He ended up then being named the Finnish Role Model of the Year from the Finnish Sports Gala. So 2019-20, one of the craziest 12-month stretches in Kevin Lankinen's life, where he became an overnight celebrity, started a book club, and that man rocket himself was named the Finnish Role Model of the Year. Unbelievable stuff, man.
Holy, do you actually want me to leak out the book because I Googled it, or do you actually, you know what? Just go watch No. You know what? Christmas is coming up. Go read Trevor's article, okay? Straight up. Before you know it, Christmas is going to be here, and I'm going to be 32 and a half years old. Kevin Lankinen, okay? Reading books, spreading love, helping kids out. Good guy. Great guy. And I apologize for what I said yesterday. What did I say yesterday? Go check us out on Locked On Canucks because, again, I was just feeling so pro Shelovs after the Lankinen signing because, yeah, we needed Lankinen, but I don't feel as if we needed some of this conversation surrounding Shelovs being the third stringer, having to play in the AHL and doing all these things when Demko comes back, if you backtrack, whatever, like 8 months ago, whenever Demko comes back and you look back in time and you're like, how is Shelovs losing his NHL job to the backup of the team that he beat in the playoffs? And you can make the argument that Shelovs, I wouldn't say single-handedly beat Nashville, but keep in mind the Vancouver Canucks won that series with the least amount of shots on net since like 1846 in the NHL. Shelovs was damn good, and that guy's going to lose his job to, again, the backup of the Predators. The Nashville Predators signed Stamkos, Mustard Salt, and they signed Brady Shea. They spent so much money, and they didn't bring back Lankinen. They went and got, who did they get? Wedgwood. What's his name?
Scott Wedgwood, yeah.
Wedgwood, okay? You know what I'm saying? I'm just high on Shelovs, and I think that I did hear some people think that Lankinen is just like, he might be the starter. He might be game one starter for the Vancouver Canucks. And maybe this was because Shelovs was quote unquote young and has 12 NHL starts or whatever and having a bad training camp, whatever that means. But that's not the case, okay? Shelovs is a team favorite, let alone a fan favorite. And look how cool this guy is. Bro, Trevor, do you think I'm exaggerating when I evaluate his ability to stop all 16 shots in a scrimmage after the team just presumably got his replacement the day before? Like, this guy's a stone cold killer. He's a goofy dude. He has his own personality. He rides on his own wave. But at the end of the day, as an athlete, this guy's a dog. I believe that. And maybe Lankinen's a dog too. But Shilov's, for what he did last spring, this guy deserves not only the leash, but when Demko comes back, he's the backup for real.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about Shilovs being the team that Lankinen was a backup for. I mean, that's definitely making you're taking a vacuum there, right? Because Lankinen had nothing to do with that.
Dude,
Maybe if Lankinen's in, things would have been different. Like, you never know, right? It's a huge what if scenario. But look, you also got a guy in Shilovs, like you said, barely any NHL experience. Kevin Lankinen, much like Shilovs, has that international experience. Plus, he has over 100 games of NHL experience and has played well in those games. And oh, by the way, had the 5th best save percentage at even strength last season in the NHL.
Whoa.
And Kevin Lankinen is a damn good goalie too. But look, he's the new guy in town. Shilovs has earned the opportunity to at least start the season as the starter, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And you know what? Again, give credit where credit is due. With some of these other, voices talking about Lankinen potentially being the guy for Vancouver because of his experience, they do also bring up the fact that, yeah, he's damn good. And last year, he was arguably a top 3, a top 5 NHL backup. And that's a pretty significant thing to have on your resume. It's not a small thing to be one of the best backups in the NHL where goalies don't play, like your number one goalie doesn't play 60 starts. Like it's cool to have this guy on the team. It creates that competition. Maybe it creates some confusion too when Demko does come back. That being said, I know the Vancouver Canucks got Lankinen on the low, and maybe that's why he's here ultimately. But a big part of me does believe that, yeah, Demko is on the ice, but he's not coming back till January or a very long time. It's also dependent on the record. Like there's a lot of factors coming in here when Demko coming back, but something tells me that it's going to be around like January. That's just me.
Well, I kind of think every day is no. We said as much prior to the Lankinen signing. I said before training camp started that, all this talk about the Canucks don't want to sign him because of LTIR. It's like, look, if they truly believe Demko is going to be out a while, they would sign Lankinen, and that's exactly what did happen. A couple comments before we get out of here. Rome Ticklen in the comments with a couple good ones, saying who will start in game 1, Shilovs or Lankinen. Look, unless something drastic happens in the preseason where Shilov stinks and Lankinen kills it, it's going to be Archer Shilovs. He's earned the opportunity. Rome Ticklen also with another comment. A lot of love for Hoglander in the comments, and rightfully so. He says, I think Hoglander will have a breakout season this year. Tocchet's got to give him some power play time as well. And we saw 4 different variations of the power play at training camp. And I think the main takeaway is in the bumper spot, because, Besser, Pedersen, Hughes, Miller aren't going anywhere. It's the bumper spot up for grabs. DeBrusk should get the first opportunity, but Hoglander, Pius Suter, and Daniel Sprong also saw bumper spot opportunities on different units in scrimmage and training camp as well. So Hoglander's in the mix, and if he gets some power play time, he could certainly juice his numbers because he definitely did not have a lot of that last season.
Yeah. It's so interesting being a Canucks fan and trying to assess what players could do more in the power play when most good teams, based on what I've seen, just stack up one power play. So it's like I don't care what Garland does in the power play. I don't try to add like points to their projections based on what they did on the power play because I'm just looking at the top unit. But you know what we should do tomorrow or Wednesday? Let's talk about if the Canucks should like split up their units. I want to go into that because there's a small chance of that happening. We got to get out of here though. We'll get to your comments, more comments on another show. Traffic, man, getting in the way, but we did it. Trevor Beggs, you did it. Sick or not, you're here for the Canucks. You're here for their fans every day. One love to you. One love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for giving us the space. Hey, everyone watching this right now, hit the like button. It does help us out a lot. Like I said, Christmas is coming up. Trevor's a father of 2. I got a girlfriend. Do the math. Do the math. In this economy, every like matters, man. Thank you so much. One love to you. One love to Shilovs. One love to Lankinen. One love to Hoglander. And Beggsy, sign us out.
All right. Shout out to everyone you listening right now, from everyone to the everydayers to the first-time listeners. We love each and every one of you. We're stoked, like you, that Canucks hockey is on the horizon. Lots more to come this week in terms of what to look for during the preseason, what lines we want to see during preseason, and should the Canucks split up that power play? Oh, baby. Lots to get into. We'll also cover any other news and notes that break for your Vancouver Canucks. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bhawan. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace, peace, peace.